Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to the to a new session of the webinars that we are organizing. I'm very happy to have it again with me today on Andrew. Andrew, it's your second experience in our webinars. Hope it's as good as the first one. And we also brought some the big guns as well. Today is also Rob with us. That he also has a lot of experience in the pharma space. And they together we will be speaking about why HCPs are not engaging with the portals and is AI a solution for this, or how can we make them better? And thank you very much for being here. Maybe I will pass it on to you, Andrew, just to do a short introduction. After that, to you, Rob, and we will get started.
Thanks, Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning if you're somewhere else in the world. I'm Andrew Binns. I'm Head of Digital and Innovation at AstraZeneca. Really timely webinar this, Alex, because we actually launched our HCP portal yesterday on myastrazeneca.co.uk if anyone wants to visit it. So, yeah, I can talk through a lot of the aspirations we've got for it, why we did it, some of the challenges that we faced, and some of the impacts that we're hoping it's going to help with regards to AstraZeneca's key commercial objectives and our engagement strategies as well.
That's great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. My name is Rob Verheul. I'm CEO of Graphite Digital. We're a digital experience design agency, and we've been working with digital portals for over 10 years, having designed Pfizer Pro that long ago, and since working with them and other brands to optimize and enhance their global HCP experiences. Looking forward to getting into the conversation, and yeah, Alex done a great job on the report. I think we're starting there, am I right?
Yep. Thank you very much for the introduction. Indeed, last year, starting from mid of September, at Digitalia, we did an extensive analysis of the HCP portals, and we published, we computed a report that you will get access after our webinar to. And there were some interesting insights in there. And a couple of them, we have it here. Obviously, in the report, you'll find more details, but we want to just to showcase the most important stuff today. So a bit about the agenda. Today we will be discussing about the current state of the HCP portals, then the future, can we make the HCP portals slightly better in terms of improvement, the role of AI in this, and Q&A and closing remarks. Now we will be going to the first part of it about the current status of the HCP portal, and we will start with a nice poll about we want to get to know you first, like what is your primary role in relation with the HCP portals. There are a couple of questions here. Feel free to answer them just to make sure that we are addressing all the roles that are involved, or at least to get as many opinions as well. And while you are answering the poll, I will go into the first part where we will be discussing about the navigation design. Over here, there are the good and the bad. The good part is that we've seen sub-navigation within the therapies or product pages in there. And the portals also, they have some basic search functionality, which doctors also want, like a good search functionality in there to find the relevant topics. What's, let's say, something to improve is about the design and the inconsistent information architecture in there. There are lack of functionalities like filtering options, and a couple of them we've seen like broken links that doesn't create like a good feeling. Let's say that you're a doctor, you search on Google for something, you land on the HCP portal, but the resource that you're expecting to be there is not. So yeah. Then regarding the content, the good part is that the most portals offer the diverse content types, which also HCPs want to see. Like in there, for example, some of the HCPs are more keen to see videos. Some of them are more into reading the different papers. So there is a good diversity of content for every types of people in there. The bad part is not the bad. The part that can be improved is about marketing-driven approach. Like some doctors, they are going in there for educational resources, but most of the people, they go for product information. And some things like, for example, how to dosage the medicine are sometimes hard to find. Regarding the personalization, what we've seen is that a lot of portals have specialty-based personalization and therapy areas filtering. But the bad is that there is limited user control in there. And sometimes if you enter as I don't know, if you are interested in as an oncologist, but your primary specialty is in breast cancer, you will also find a lot of details about all types of cancers in there. So can be improved as well. Regarding the quality of educational resources, again, a good content diversity in there. We've seen also a lot of educational tools that also provide CME points in certain cases, but that is very limited because most of these are not, we didn't see an interconnection in the CME part of it. So this is also a good, what we've experienced, that part of the CME points is also a good driver to HCP activations because it's something they are interested in. And also there is also missing content format opportunities in there. Then in terms of the interactivity, the good part is that there are webinars and live events in there, but it's quite limited. For example, just a couple of the portals, they provide like some quizzes or gamification tools in order to make people more engaging in using that, or even more like right now, we haven't seen so many portals that are integrating chatbots or different tools in this part that can provide a better experience. So I will pause here right now. And regarding the first part, these are some of the main things that we've encountered. I am curious if this resonates with what you've experienced in the industry so far. Especially on the design and the user accessibility part and conversion rate optimization or things like this. So yeah, maybe you, Andrew, and Rob can share also your thoughts about this.
Yeah, I think there's some really valid points in there, Alex. And I guess probably a good starting point is why I feel so passionate about HCP portals as opposed to individual brand websites, because at AstraZeneca we've had incredible success with individual promotional websites for each brand, each with their own bespoke content strategy, their own SEO strategy. I guess where we embarked on this project was that as a success was also a huge challenge in maintaining the consistency of the UX, ensuring that the high quality of the digital experience that we want to provide to our HCPs was unified across all of our websites. So if a doctor was on our Farxiga website, they would then get an absolutely different experience when they're on our Trixeo website. And that's not a great brand experience. And I guess we're super lucky at AstraZeneca, and there's a real positive brand sentiment around AstraZeneca at the moment amongst a huge proportion of our customers. And so it seemed crazy not to make the most of that and try and give them a platform that was completely empathetic to them. So rather than forcing them to go to different websites with different designs and different user experiences, is we wanted to create a very unified experience that allows us to give them the relevant content, but also to start making them aware about the full breadth of the portfolio of products that AstraZeneca's got available. And I know Paul Sims says this a lot, but it actually is one of the few things he says that makes sense, which is around when you're booking a hotel, you don't go to all of the different hotel providers anymore. You go to your hotels.com or your booking.com, and that's how we are working. That's how we engage with digital content on Netflix or Amazon. We want somewhere where everything is. Now, I guess the trick is, and where people like yourself, Alex, and Rob, and some of the people on this call are absolutely fantastic at, is helping understand what type of content should be on that. And then we can start looking at how we embrace the amazing technology that we've got in pharma to really start delivering a personalized experience without becoming personalization snobs and spending a year trying to come up with the ideal personalization journey, which I don't think Rob is needed at this stage. Do you?
No, we can get too focused on the art of personalization and lose focus, which I would think is more about the impact and value for the user. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've said it earlier, Rob. I've heard you speak brilliantly at a couple of conferences where you talk about the fact that no one on planet Earth wakes up in the morning and thinks, I want to go to a pharma website and get a personalized experience. And likewise, I don't go onto Netflix and think, this is an incredible personalized experience for me. What I do think is, this is brilliant. They're pushing content to me that's relevant to me and is useful to me and makes me a brand loyalist towards this platform. And that, I think, is the art. And exactly the same as omnichannel. Omnichannel and personalization have just become buzzwords, and replacing the fact that actually what we're trying to do is give a really contextual, individual, unique, helpful, resonating experience for each doctor. And the more refined we can get on that, the better the experience will be. And that's where the power of HCP portals are. But it's a challenge, right? It's tough. We've got so many issues within this sector that other sectors don't have. Things like compliance, things like the sign-off process. It makes it incredibly difficult to create these individualized experiences if the MLR review process means that they've got to see the content in situ. Because that more modular approach to content means that we are approving content rather than the way the content is shown. So I think that's a challenge. It certainly was one of the reasons why the AstraZeneca website took 9 months for us to develop, when essentially, it's a 3-month project, right? These sort of HCP portals, these aren't Sainsbury's or Amazon that we're trying to recreate. These are 70, 80-page websites, but every single word, every single image, every single way that content is being propositioned to our HCPs needs sign off. And that's the world we live in. And of course, it's brilliant and completely fantastic that we live in this very compliant world, because we've got to be protective over everything that goes out into the world. So, yeah, I think it's a great point, Rob. Personalization is a brilliant word, and agencies and digital innovators like me throw it around a lot. But the crux of the matter is we need to give brilliant content to our HCPs to help them do their job. And if that's what they feel and that's the sentiment they get from visiting our website, then that's a massive tick in the box.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Absolutely. So in tune with all of those things. And Alex, in terms of the report, spent some time with it. I think it's a really good summary of the challenges, and I recommend anyone involved in creating a portal to look at the practical considerations and, to Andrew's point, the nuances, because the things that, those things get in the way unless they're done well. The whole reason these things are called portals is because they're gateways to content, right? And typically from multiple brands. And what you're showing here is it really matters how effective that gateway is in terms of a journey and an overall experience. A couple of the themes that I observed, or sort of bring together a number of these points in here. One is around the onboarding experience, and it's something we talk about a lot. This is the journey to the content, including sort of the navigation and the registration. And particularly we find that access, including the registration process, is a really big pain point and a big barrier for users. And what we don't want to be doing is creating barriers to content. So optimizing the journeys and particularly the navigation in a way that makes sense for a customer will enhance that engagement. Often not enough attention is paid to clarifying the value proposition. And by this, I mean clearly articulating for HCPs why they should visit and why they should continue to engage. And really the benefit of doing that well is that the audiences are they want to go, and give them a reason to click and a reason to progress.
Yeah.
And another one was around the content. I really appreciate what you've covered in the report on content. We know that trust is a big issue for HCPs. They assume a high degree of bias to the extent that it's not even worth engaging with our content. And really, so brands have to create very valuable customer-centric content beyond just prescribing information, but learning content and peer-generated content and other things to drive value into that experience and ultimately create trust. So yeah, the report touches on a lot, but just to capture my core themes there, I think experience and content, it's all about those things.
Yeah, I think Richard's put a fantastic point in the chat around context trumps content. I couldn't agree with that more, Richard. I think Pharma is amazing at producing reams and reams of content, and we expect the HCP to find what they need within like a digital needle in a haystack, basically. And I think by contextualizing the content based on our knowledge of the HCP, based on their digital behavior, based on their prescribing behavior, Jesus, we've got so much information on our doctors through all of these platforms, through IQVIA, through our CRM systems, through the knowledge of the fantastic knowledge the field force can give us. We should be at a stage now where we're giving really relevant contextual content to our HCP so that when they visit our website, Rob, they're thinking, do you know what I'm going to be presented here is relevant. In exactly the same scenario that when I go onto Amazon, it doesn't give me options for women's underwear or hang gliding equipment because it knows who I am, it knows my buying behaviors, and it will give me stuff that's relevant to me, which actually prompts me into engaging with the website more, spending more money on that website, and be more loyal to that website. So I think context is a really, really great word rather than content.
Well said. And that's exactly what we meant in terms of value proposition, and being really clear about what the customer's going to get out of it in terms of, is it worth me clicking on this? Because in that wider journey, you have to set them up for success and not disappoint them when they get to the next bit and that's not what I expected. They'll just quit. You've got to take them on that in a natural way and giving them value at each point and a reason to want to engage as well, and back that up with valuable content.
Yeah, and that's if you look at what Marcus has asked around, how you drive these HCPs to our website. Rob, it's a great point you made about the fact that, of course, the AstraZeneca website is going to be biased towards AstraZeneca products. We'll never be at the stage where we're like, do you know what, guys, this is a good product, but why don't you give GSK's inhaler a go? We don't work like that, nor should we. We're a commercial entity. So that trust needs to come in a way of that value. If I'm going to visit this website, am I going to get something that's going to be of use for me? Because no one wants to visit a pharma website. None of us do. There's far more entertaining websites to engage with than any of the pharma websites. But of course, people need to do it because we're integral to people being able to do their jobs. So driving people to the website is a really interesting question, and just sending out a load of VAEs to basically say, oh, guess what? The Sega.co.uk is now being replaced with myAstraZeneca.co.uk. That means absolutely nothing to a HCP. If we can say, listen, come onto the website and you're going to get a far more tailored experience that allows us to give you what you need rather than push what we want to say to you, I think that's where we're going to make the first tiny steps into getting over that trust issue. And I've never believed that HCPs don't trust the content of pharma because, of course, we can't do anything but be compliant and tell the truth. And I'm really proud that I work in a sector where smoke and mirrors and manipulation is even more frowned on. It's actually against the law for us to do. And of course it should be. But the trust issue, Rob, is around the fact that why am I going on to an AstraZeneca website when I can go on to BMJ or the NHS? So we've got to come up with content that makes people think, thank goodness AstraZeneca's website is there. And that's a big challenge, I think. And that's where content is really, really important. And you can't just churn out promotional content and think that that's your job done. Peer-to-peer content, digital opinion leaders, understanding what these doctors need to do their job and what they want to get from a website, I think is really, really important.
Well said.
Yep. Thank you very much for the inputs. We've seen a lot of people that are also active on the Q&A polls and on the webinar chat. It was very mind-blowing for me in a previous webinar when one of the speaker asked the audience, the attendees, how do you do this in your company? So although we will share our learnings, the webinars is also a nice way for us, the speakers over here, to learn from you. So in case you have any good practices or you had any learnings that you want to share, feel free to use the chat for that as well. There is also, we will take questions along the way and we will have a special slot at the end. There is also a nice question over here from Arpita regarding content is not just one brand manager's responsibility on a portal. And how do you do to upscale or drive change management to drive also high quality content and relevance to the organization? Is there any, I don't know, any insights on top of your mind that you would share about this? And also for the other attendees, you can also reply to the questions, not just the three of us.
Yeah, I think there's two things. First of all, I 100% agree. I don't think the role of creating content of anything, of any marketing asset within pharma should lie with the brand or marketing teams. And that ties into what Richard's just said around the fact that he doesn't believe any HCP needs to come to a pharma website. Probably agree with you, Richard, to a certain extent at the moment. I think they do. You know, we get really good visitors to our website. So clearly people want to come to our website and get content, but I imagine they're quite frustrated sometimes when they get there and think I'm not getting anything new here. So I think we should be starting to get led by our medical colleagues. It's medical content, right? The elephant in the room in pharma at the moment with the content strategies that promotional content is not desired, but the amount of money we invest in promotional content versus non-promotional content is totally disproportionate. So if we want to convert our pharma websites into useful resources, then we need to go out and understand exactly what content people need. And then how do we produce that content? And I think churning out brand stories coming from the global guys across multiple channels, that's just not resonating with our HCPs. I've told this story before, so apologies if it's repeating it to anyone. But I remember going out with a rep, and I basically asked one of the HCPs why they weren't prescribing one of our products, and he relayed to me a competitor's scientific narrative. Said, "Oh, this is why," and he'd actually relayed the wrong pharma company's scientific narrative. So he wasn't prescribing our drugs. He was prescribing a competitor's drugs and using another competitor's rationale for prescribing that. And when I pointed that out to him, he was like, well, there's your problem. You all sound the same. You all come to me and you all think that you're giving me something new, giving me something innovative. But in fact, you're just saying the same thing. So we've got to really start thinking, how can we grab the attention of these HCPs? How can we help them evaluate our products? And how can we make sure that they're making the right decision for patients based on the content that we can provide to them? And I think that's where there's going to be a shift in content, because we're not there to just give out the same promotional content time after time across multiple channels, because that's why people don't want to engage with our content. Don't know what you think, Rob, but it seems to be the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, well, you're more of a content expert than me, but I do think when it comes down to it, customer centricity is always going to win through, right? So give the customers what they want, not what they don't want, and then you'll find traction. And I do think your point around medical content and engagement is a really good one. There's this sort of balance and debate, between brand versus or commercial versus medical, but there's so much value and the trust is much higher in medical. So there's a lot of potential there. And actually, a lot of the medical teams will probably be able to advise commercial often, what gets most traction. Alex, where would you like to go next?
Yep, let's move to the next part where we will be discussing about the future of HCP portals and engagement. So we will have another poll for you. Again, we are making this your webinar as well, not just ours. So we want to interact with you as much as possible. So while we will be discussing about the future of HCP engagement, right now, please write your, obviously, if you want, your answers to the what is the main challenge in engaging with HCPs through the portals right now. And while people are answering, my personal view on this is that right now, and I really like your approach, Andrew, with my AstraZeneca, at least from what I remember, the fact that you want to transform the portal as and get doctors involved in it as it would be their portal, not AstraZeneca's portal. So this is also my personal view about the future of HCP portals, the fact that and sometimes I know it's counterintuitive. Like, for example, right now when we go to the supermarket, you also can do your own scanning for the shopping in there. So we can do also the same with the doctors, like do a bit of self-personalization. And as I know that you might want to or have implemented this on that, although you give them more work to do, but it makes more involved and you give the decision-making power into their hand what they want to receive in there. So I would say, in my point of view, the future of these HCP portals is in terms of making more the HCP's portal rather than AstraZeneca's portal or Pfizer's portal or whatever pharma company name portal in there. I am just curious, what's also your take on this while people are also answering, and I believe we will see the answers a bit later, like in a minute or two.
Just on that point, I think one of the inspirations we took, it's a really, really valid point, Alex. One of the inspirations we took for our aspiration for 1AZ was the EasyJet website. So EasyJet basically doesn't over personalize. What it does is it asks how it can help you today. Because when I'm looking to book holidays, I'm booking some days for a family, some days for business, some days for a nice romantic trip, some days for a lad's golf holiday. I've got so many different uses for that website. So it allows me to self-segment. And I think self-segmentation is one of the most powerful tools because it allows me to contextualize the experience myself. So it's not making too many assumptions. And it's certainly not being like, well, you were on here last week, Andrew, and you were booking a trip to Paris for two people, for two adults. So we're going to assume that all you ever want is romantic breaks. But of course, that's not how human beings live or interact or engage, is it? So what we took from EasyJet, which is on the 1AZ site, is the ability for people to tailor their own content. And if you look on the site, the first words you see on there are, how can we help you today? Not welcome to AstraZeneca, here you're going to find loads and loads of content on pharma stuff. It's how can we help you today? And that as a sentiment immediately welcomes the visitor. And then we offer them the opportunity to tell us a little bit about themselves. And by doing that, there's a mutual benefit. For me, I get to analyze what content is being utilized. I get to personalize the experience for the customer. For the customer, it means you don't have to read 99% of the crap that's on that site because it's only that 1% that's relevant to them for that stage of the customer journey that they want to do. I don't want someone spending an hour on an AstraZeneca website because that means they're not finding what they need to do. And if I can then give them little nuggets where, oh, by the way, now you've watched that video, do you know that your peers also watch this type of video? Or if this is the sort of content you're after, did you know that we've got a webinar on this next week? That's relevant, valued content to give to people. And I think that's where if we only ever did self-segmentation, I think we'd be improving our websites by 1,000,000%. All of the clever back-end systems that Adobe Experience Manager or Sitecore or Sitefinity or whatever these other platforms are, they're out there, allow us to do are amazing opportunities. But let's not run before we can walk. Let's start by trying to give the customers an experience. And the first trick to doing that is to get them to tell us about themselves.
Thank you.
Well said. Well said. Couldn't put it better. I think for us, I'd say there's two trends in the way that things are going. And for many years, as it's touched upon in the report, the portals have been the wild west of inconsistency of UX and UI, with every brand sort of doing what they want and doing it really well in isolation. But actually, HCPs are sometimes across multiple products or therapy areas, and so actually it comes across really disjointed. So global brands are moving towards or have adopted design systems, something we've got a lot of experience with, and they make total sense to systematically define the best practices in UX and UI at a global level, and the brands can fulfill those templates and put together the experiences with the system very quickly and cheaply, and reduces cost by something like 70% and creates brand consistency. So really important to do that really well and raise the standard of the experience for the HCP. And yeah, the output is reduced cost, which, it's been raised on the thread here. There's not a high volume of visitors often in these environments, and so reducing cost is essential, and able to bring the brand messages to the fore in a way that is customer centric. And we're only finding customer centricity as a methodology in honestly the best portals with brave leaders, and Andrew's certainly one of those good examples. For a long time, the approach by brands has been to use their long form content from a brochure or something and just put it on the website. And the way it's presented and formatted often isn't very compelling for an end user, and it doesn't offer anything more than they can find elsewhere. So customer centricity requires an intentional effort to balance the needs of the user at every point of that experience and really thinking it through. And often less is more as well. So taking away, the volume perhaps in order to give a better experience requires some good decisions and brave leadership, but it will often enter the right way. So yeah, two themes: best practice and driving the price down, and customer centricity.
Yeah, and let's take learnings from our everyday lives. Like having a look at, like, we revolutionized like our email marketing within AstraZeneca, because we basically got everyone to have a look at the emails that they were getting on their Gmail accounts from a Laithwaite's Wine or from an ASOS or from a Sainsbury's, and they weren't reams and reams of content packed full of graphs and stuff. They were one core message with one call to action. And I think that's where we really need to start understanding that the world of non-pharma is not this evil, horrible place where people can say whatever they want. Some of the biggest brands I've worked for are hugely heavily regulated as well. So let's stop using the excuse of regulation for producing poor quality content, because we should be producing content using non-pharma examples, because we engage with non-pharma digital platforms every single second of our lives, whether it's Spotify or Amazon or Netflix. They bring pleasure and joy and usefulness to our lives. I don't ever feel I'm being sold to when Amazon make me buy stuff that I had no intention of buying. When Spotify push a song to me because of other songs that I've listened to, I see that as a useful resource. What I would hate to do is go on Sainsbury's website and be greeted with a welcome message that says there's 27,000 products on here. I'm sure whatever you want is in here. Go away and find it. And that's what I think we need to start humanizing our digital experiences for our HCPs. And we do that, trust comes in, loyalty comes in, and acceptance that it's a partnership and a collaboration rather than pharma trying to flog me some drugs along with all the other competitors that they're trying to do.
In the meantime, we also have the results from the poll, and thank you everyone that participated. So there are two major clusters regarding getting HCPs to the website. So that's the main challenge, followed by showing relevant content to them, or the second is regarding the content in different ways, either showing relevant content, either into the getting the part with the gated versus non-gated content. Any advice on these two things?
I mean, I wouldn't have anything gated. What's the point? Like, the whole point of trying to get this content out there, gated content is basically trying to blackmail someone into giving you their email address so that they get better content. And that's not the message that we're trying to get across out there. We've already got gated content by asking people to confirm that they're a HCP. And in the UK, there's a slightly crazy scenario because any member of the public can just say, yes, I am a HCP. So we've already got a barrier to that. Gated content for me is, of course, there might be certain elements that you might want to gate from a commercial point of view. But basically saying, if you want this great content, give us your email address. That's blackmailing people into, or bribing them into giving you their email address. And that's why our consent levels are so low, because people think, oh, you're just going to spam me as soon as you get my email address. What I want to do is have someone think, all right, if I'm going to give you my email address, what's in it for me? And that's where we need to get across the message that the more information we know about someone, the better content that we can provide for them, not the fact that that means I can send them 8 emails a month. And that's why I'm really opposed to gated content. I'd be interested to what Rob's thinks, and certainly anyone, a lot of the participants are really vocal on the chat. So there's probably lots of different opinions, but yeah, it's definitely my thoughts.
It's a value exchange at the end of the day, and the drop off on registrations or logins is enormous. So we want to be giving value for people and giving them reasons to log in, or just giving them the value anyway. And we know enough about them probably to be able to connect with them in different ways. But we see I'm seeing 2 types of portals that are working, or driving traffic at the moment, right? So one which has got massive media spend, or promotional activity, or joined up journeys that really end in destination, and customers are there, or one that has massive HCP demand, and that's the obesity products. They're new products on the market. They don't really know how to deal with them. There's genuine desire to learn, and they weren't taught it at medical school, and so they offer value, and so it is always about a value exchange.
Yeah, and a good measurement for that, Rob, I think, is all the pharma people on this webinar now, all the agencies that have done work for them. Are you proud of your website? Right? Can you sit there and think, I'm absolutely proud of that? Because if you're not, then why do you think a HCP would want to go onto it? You need to put your heart and soul and tears and sweat into the creation of a website. And when it's launched, you need to be sat there with a massive smile on your face thinking, this is a fantastic digital experience I've created. What you can't have is people thinking, thank God that box is ticked. I don't have to look at that website ever again. I think we all know that happens far too often in pharma, where it's like, thank God it's over. Every single website needs to be evolving. It needs to be changing. We need to be analysing the content that's getting used. And surely as digital marketeers, that's something we should be passionate about. It's something we should be obsessed about, looking at the dashboards. I can't wait to look at the AstraZeneca dashboard in an hour's time when this is finished and see how many of my customers have visited that website. How many prompts have I pushed out to the field force around some of the customers that have engaged with content? What content's working, what isn't working? Pride is such an important work in marketing, I think. And if you're not proud of your website, then it's not a website that should be out in the open, because it's just become a box ticking exercise. Take it down. There's one website, AstraZeneca, when I first joined, that cost £250,000, and it had 6 visitors in 3 months. And I was just like, what's the point? What is the point of this website? We've absolutely built a castle in a desert. But the person who built it was like, I had to do it. We had to do a website. I'm just like, clearly you didn't have to do a website because no one's visiting it. The content on there is just not engaging with people. So what's the point of doing it? 2 years later, they've redeveloped their website. They've got a proper marketing campaign driving people to that website. It's got a reason to exist. And it isn't just an e-detail aid online. It's part of the customer adoption ladder. At what stage do we want this customer looking at a website? It doesn't have to be all things to all men, because that's not what marketing should be. Each marketing asset should have a very specific reason to exist. And I think pride is something that we should all look at ourselves and think, do you know what? Bloody love what I've done there.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
We are getting closer and closer to the end of the webinar. Let's move to the third part as well. Some of the people maybe are here for the AI. So we will start with this. Basically, the question is around, we will also have another poll, yay, where we will be asking you, what do you plan to enhance? When do you plan to enhance your HCP portal? And we are hoping that the conversation today to derive some of the ideas in there regarding the enhancements of the HCP portal, while the poll is out there, feel free to answer them. We will be diving into a couple of AI use cases and how to use that in pharma. And I will start with one of personal, and as you said in there, Andrew, if you're not proud about the work that you are doing, then it means that you shouldn't have it out there. So I will share a moment of pride that my colleague from the marketing department made me to be proud about these days. So basically, this would be the HCP portal. We will give you access to this as well after the webinar. So we computed a 28 pages long report about our findings. For some of the people that are passionate, this might be, hey, it's too less, but for some people, it's 28 pages. I don't have enough time to read this. So what my colleagues did in there, they repurposed this. So they used GenAI tools and some of GenAI algorithms to create an interactive podcast. So maybe some of you want to listen to this while you are driving or while you are going to, I don't know, to whatever you are jogging or whatever you are doing. And some people from you are maybe more visual, so you want to see a summary of it, and you also want to have some interactiveness on this part. So let me just refresh it. So over here, for example, for the interactiveness, you can choose what would be the area that you are interested in, maybe the third chapter, and you'll be going in there. So that's a nice example that maybe pharma can steal or people can steal from here regarding how to use these tools. I hope that you have saw my screen. And this is a nice example of how to do content repurposing and to drive cost optimization that you were also speaking about, Rob, and you, Andrew. Are there any other examples that you would want to share in terms of how to use the GenAI or AI in general? Maybe Europe, as you know, you are very tech enthusiast.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really getting into it. I love it. But what I'm observing is that AI is a tool. It is not the goal. You know, it is not the silver bullet that if we just adopt AI, then everything will be better. You know, it has to be in service of a purpose, and that purpose is typically, you know, a business one. And you know, I think what we are seeing it though is in service of those purposes. So we've talked about content. It's really good at rapid sort of creation and approval of that content. We're seeing it used in analyzing user journeys and the expected intent, you know, for a user, optimizing that for a persona. It's really fascinating around the orchestration of journeys and moving people along at the right time with the next best action. You know, things driving the marketing funnel. And we're also, you know, around user testing and accessibility, you know, so all of these and many more applications, but ultimately it needs to be that the journey and the comms and the content are truly excellent, and AI is serving to meet that need or those needs in various ways. And it is, and there's a lot, you know, that we can use. But I don't think it doesn't solve that. It still needs clarity of vision and strategy and you know, the right mindset in order to make these experiences as valuable as possible.
Yeah, I think if you look at the two types of personalization that we've got the ability to do, implicit personalization, which is what me as a marketeer would do, where I
And it doesn't replace creativity, I think it expands creativity, right? It needs that core idea, that origination and the prompts. And then it's great at sort of rolling that out across permutations. But at the end of the day, it is still that value and that uniqueness at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, Robin. You're a creative. I was a copywriter. We know the power of the word and the power of the image, right? That comes from creative thinking people, right? If it was as simple as just using AI, then any idiot could be a designer or a copywriter, but they can't be, because when people try and do copywriting who can't write, it's dreadful. And when you see people who try and design who aren't creative, it's awful. So I don't think ever we should be frightened of anything that helps us with the churn aspects of it, because at the end of the day, that creative spark, that innovation, that need to be disruptive lies with us, and always will lie with us.
Yep. Nice. We are getting closer and closer to the end of the webinar. Just want to give the chance to the attendees as well to ask their last questions here. A couple, or I believe almost all of them, we answered along the way, or you gave them answer within your sharing your insights. But we want to just take the last 3 minutes to see if there is anything else left.
Yeah, I can respond to Richard's point. I don't know what heterogeneous means, Richard, sorry. But I think FMCG, a lot of that is based on spontaneous purchasing behavior, right? Like we put a banner in front of Rob and he might think, do you know what, I like the look of that jumper, I'm going to buy it. That's not how it works in pharma. No one will ever make a prescribing decision based on the fact that they've seen a fantastic banner. And so I think it is learning more around the fact that not all of the messages that we're trying to communicate to our customers needs to happen on every single channel. So a banner should be grabbing the attention. A website should be helping someone evaluate the content and increase their propensity to prescribe. A webinar might be the close or the showing of the benefits. Every single content piece should have an objective based on shifting someone along that buying behavior. The danger I think we have in pharma is we try and take someone from apathetic or unaware of our product to a potential prescriber of our product. And we think we can do that in one webinar or one white paper or one e-detail aid or one rep visit or one website visit. And that's just not how humans work. And we know that from FMCG and e-commerce. And that's the learnings that I take from there. But Richard's totally right. There's a lot of stuff on there that we can't close online, right? There's so many different aspects of a decision when it comes to prescribing beyond just, I'd like to do that. Have they got the capability to do it as well as the motivation?
Mm-hmm. Yep. There is
so there's a question around there around regulation and AI, and a few years ago there was an AI sort of council or set up by the EU, and it's and that sort of felt like the right thing to be doing. And then we've already seen administration changes across the water. They're like, no, let's not bother with that. And then there's no regulation in the Chinese, and so they're sort of leaping ahead as well. And it's a really interesting one to watch, because it's become political, and actually what you can do just depends on where you are geographically. Um, I was at a conference yesterday, and the regulatory leads for these brands were talking about adoption of AI. And honestly, there's some really smart people in regulatory. They want to do the best thing for the brand and help their organization, but also protect it in the right ways. And yeah, I'm really impressed with how many are approaching AI from a balanced perspective, taking into consideration the political and the ethical considerations of it. And it's going to evolve daily. But I wouldn't say, it's going to be hampered any day soon, Salman. But we'll see.
Yep, over here, I believe besides the regulation that a couple of them, like using general AI, it's already like, I believe the European Commission, they already have any laws regarding this. In the US, I'm not sure what's the status right there, but some of these companies, they also have some internal guidelines in terms of how to use AI and what's not, what is allowed and what not. And I believe almost all big companies, and I believe inside AstraZeneca, there are also a couple of these things, but also companies that are bigger or a bit smaller than Astra. For example, I know one in top three company that they have an internal regulation in terms of how to use Gen AI for in omnichannel. And in there, it's illegal not illegal, it's not allowed to use images generated with Gen AI that are, for example, closer to like where the people are looking like real people in there. Like you can use animations, you can use, I don't know, cartoon characters. You can use, for example, child characters because, they are growing and it's a different thing, but you cannot use like adults generated pictures in that. So there are already companies that they are doing this, internal regulations, and also the governments, they are looking on this with a more keen eye or less keen eye, depending who is the president. Cool. Well, we are totally reachable to LinkedIn as well. So in case you have any other questions, feel free to approach us there. Or if you want to share some ideas or to get some feedback on different stuff, again, I believe every one of us is open to do that. We will be sending over the recording for the people that attended. In case you want to forward it to some of your colleagues that you see that they would love to hear us blubbering around here. It would be great. Yep. I want to say thank you to everybody here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Andrew, for bearing with me today and for sharing your insights and for also being so transparent with everything. And until next time, wish you all a very good day, afternoon, morning, whenever you are in the world. See you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye-bye.